Hi, Charlene here with Moonlight Gardens. Today I'd like to visit with you about container gardening. Planting your garden in a container. Perhaps you don't have a garden in your backyard. Maybe you live in an apartment and you don't have any space for a garden. And you can grow some of these things in a container right outside your back door or your front door or whatever. Okay, the first thing that you're going to need to know is your sun. You will want at least 6 hours of sun for most of your vegetables. The rule of thumb would be if they flower, like your cucumbers flower, your tomatoes flower, your squash flower, they're going to need the most sun that you can get. If it doesn't have a flower, like your broccoli, your lettuce, your spinach, your collards, some of those vegetables, you can get by with less sun and less hours of sun during the day. What you need to do is take a day and go out and monitor the area that you want to put your container in. Every 30 minutes go out and determine, is there sun, how much sun, or no sun at all. Take into consideration the landscape. Do you have big trees on one side or a building that's going to block that sun? So you have to take that in consideration too. If the trees, if it's too early in the season, be sure that they're leafed out and see how much shade or sun that will be cast. It can be broken up sun too. It doesn't have to be a solid 6 hours. It can be high noon, it can be a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, as long as it's 6 hours, and that would be full sun. Okay, that would be your sun location. Then would be your containers. This is an instance where bigger is better. Now, I have these little containers here, and they come as a kit. Just because it says tomatoes doesn't mean you have to grow tomatoes, but it comes with a little trellis. Then there's these mineral tubs that the cattlemen use for their livestock. Got a terracotta pot, that would work. And these are nursery container, number 10 nursery container. And we have these. I would not probably plant a tomato or a pepper or cucumber in these. You're just not going to have enough root volume, soil for your roots on that one. But again, bigger is better. And if you use something that's makeshift like this, be sure it has drainage holes in it. We cut big holes in these for drainage. The soil that you're going to want to use. Do not go to the garden or to a field or something and get regular dirt. It is too heavy. It brings in weed seeds. It brings in insects that you're not going to want. You will want to use soilless mix. This is, it's got perlite and peat. You could use a bark-based. So you're going to want to use soilless mix. Don't use garden soil. Planting. So here's a pot we're going to plant. This is a tomato that I have allowed to get tall and lanky. We've all been there. We have a plant that it gets too big. You're not going to want to plant this right here. We live in Kansas. We all know what Kansas weather will do. We get some wind and it could snap off right here. For some of us seasoned gardeners, every one of us have had that happen. So in this particular instance with this tomato, the first thing you would want to do is you take off these bottom leaves. Just peel them right off. It's not going to hurt it. You're going to want to put this up to here, possibly up to here. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can dig. In this instance, you about have to dig all the way to the pot in this container. Take it out of the pot. This is a new cherry tomato called Baby Boomer. Don't know much about it, it's brand new. So you can plant it right in there, put all your soil back in. Pack it in there, and you've got a start of a tomato. I'm going to pull that back out. This is just a little start of a cherry tomato here. And this one you would want to put just like that. Now I know that it seems silly that you would take a tomato this size that is very small and put it in a big container like this. But trust me, it would like it a lot. This happens to be a cherry tomato that is an indeterminate tomatoes get very large, so it will really like the soil volume that you could put in that. Another way of planting a tomato like this, and this is probably more so out in your garden. For all practical purposes, I'm going to use this little window box. You lay it down, okay? You're going to dig a hole here. You're going to plant it in there like that. I wish I could go a little bit deeper. Cover this up. And you're going to just let that lay right there. All right? A couple of weeks ago, I did that exact same thing with this tomato right here. The root of this tomato is clear over here. So I'm going to dig this up. And the reason I'm going to show you this is because this tomato will root all down this stem. So I'm going to show you, see what has happened here. Can you see those roots all along that stem? Now, when you first plant this, remember that the root is here, not over here. So when you first water it, you're going to want to water this root. Now, this is laying down. Within 2 days, it's going to stand up straight. So there's that tomato. In a big container, you don't just have to have one plant. You could, if you wanted to, you could plant lettuce down through here. You could put a pepper in there. You could put strawberries in here. If you want to put some marigolds, you could put a couple of marigolds in there and have you a little flower bed in addition to your vegetables. Okay. After you plant, what I would suggest you do, because again, we live in Kansas and we know what our temperatures can do. If you're a really busy person and you can't water these all the time, what I would suggest you do is mulch the top with sphagnum mulch. This is the way it comes. It's dry. You put it in a bucket of water and it absorbs the water. So you can just squeeze that out a little bit and just put it on the surface that way, all the way around, and it will really hold the moisture in. When you water these, depending on what the weather does and the sun, the wind, we all know things can dry out, particularly in a container like that. When they start getting really big, you might have to water these things 3 times a day. Twice a day for sure, but maybe 3 times. This will help you. You might have to get creative on how you're going to apply water. You might Google that of some sort, you know, get a water bottle with a hole in it and put that in at noon so it seeps in all day. Anyway, they're going to need water, and I'll show you what happens if you let it wilt in just a little bit. Okay, after you've watered, you got to remember you are planting in soilless mix. It has no nutrients at all. You want to feed these things, these plants, for them to perform the best that they can. What you want to fertilize with is what we call a balanced fertilizer. This is an all-purpose one where all 3 of these numbers are the same. We have nitrogen as the first number, phosphorus is the second number, potassium is the third number. If you have something that's high in nitrogen, you will get a lot of foliage, very little fruit. So you want a balanced fertilizer. I would recommend that you fertilize at least once a week, twice a week. They would love it more. If the tomatoes get too big, one thing that you can do, and this happens to be a cherry tomato, going back to this, in here, in between this is the main stem. So between the main stem and a leaf is what we call the crotch of the tomato. You can pick these out of here. This one has gotten pretty big. You can pick it out of here. Here's another small one that has coming in there. You can pick that out of there. Here's another smaller one here. So here's one down here. So that will keep your tomato somewhat contained so it doesn't bush out too much. They will get pretty big. And and that's okay if they get big, but your patio may not have that much room. What I want to show you now is something. I have a cucumber growing, it's behind me, so we'll go over there. If you let it wilt, I'm going to show you what will happen. When a plant wilts, it has to give up something. Generally, it gives up its fruit. Well, we're growing it for its fruit, so letting it wilt, it will abort its fruit, and we have nothing. So we will come over here to this tomato, or cucumber plant. So this has been growing for a while. You can see it has cucumbers all along up here that are growing well. I forgot to water it one day. It was over here and it was wilting. What will happen is that it will abort its fruit. They start turning yellow and this will fall off. This one here will also turn more yellow and will fall off. I'm thinking this is the third one that will also turn yellow and fall off. The rest of these may produce a fruit. So I'm going to be eating cucumbers here in just a little bit, a couple of days. And it's so much fun to have fresh fruit right outside your patio door. So enjoy. Get your hands wet, get your fingers wet, get your hands dirty. Try some container gardening. You'll know more the next year after you do it. Every time you do it, you'll learn a little bit more on what to do and what not to do. But it's great.